Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN, it is Season 5, Episode 70, playoff edition of the Rangers Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. Hey, have you tried the Canadian Club Ginger Ale? Crisp, refreshing alternative to beer. It's well balanced with flavors of ginger and the subtle notes of rye and spice. The new formula, 30% less sugar and 20% fewer calories. Delicious. That is Canadian Club Ginger Ale. All right. Get it out of your system. I've got my Frankenmuth t-shirt on for all of our YouTube fans. Frankenmuth, Michigan. So have at me. Apparently your family was not impressed with my linguistics.
Well, Landon played in Germany for the last 3 and a bit years. And he said, hey, tell Dregs. He goes, I learned 9 words of German while I was there. But W's are V's in Germany. And he said, listening to him say,
what?
He said, listening to Drake say, willkommen, he goes, made my ears hurt. He goes, it was painful. So I'm passing that along. That
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you know.
And I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I was trying to be funny, and it just didn't land. It didn't come back.
As Gordon Miller says, comedy's hard. Leave it to the professionals.
Okay, so willkommen is as you enter Frankenmuth. Take a wild guess what the sign says on the other side as you're leaving Frankenmuth, Michigan.
Beat it.
Well, maybe. Wiedersehen.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
I have no idea. And it was like 6 a.m. and the sun was barely up, but I was trying to race back to make a tee time, which I made Sunday, by the way.
How'd you play?
I started with an 8 on the par 5 first hole, but
tough way to start.
I don't know. It was mid-80s. It wasn't very good. Tell Landon I appreciate that he's looking out.
Yeah, he's just trying to help. Just trying to help. That's what we do.
And look, by the way, how are you? You spent a couple of days in Florida. You're ready for the big match tonight.
Yeah, everything's good. I went over the morning skate this morning and saw the Panthers' new facility there. Oh my gosh, this is
nice,
amazing. And if when guys go look around for free agency, and if you're looking at Florida and somewhere else, and you see this facility in the area where the guys live, the guys are literally driving golf carts to the practice.
Jeez.
And once you're in it, man, the place is phenomenal.
I wonder which team was the first to do that with a practice facility. I mean, it obviously wouldn't be the Vegas Golden Knights because they're so new. Yeah. But when they put their practice rink out where they did, again, very similar to what you're describing in Florida, as a family man, former player, that's a game changer, right? I mean, it's life-changing in some respects.
It is. You spend way more time at the practice rink than you do at the game rink.
Yeah.
The game rink, you just go in, play, and come home. And, now it's easier to get there early, to get more, to stay up on your treatment, to hang out a little bit more because you're 5 minutes away from home.
Love it.
And it's a really, really impressive facility.
All right. Okay, we're gonna get to the East. Clearly, that's what you're doing in Florida. But we're so fresh from what happened last night, being Monday night in the Western Conference Final between the Dallas Stars and the Edmonton Oilers. I think we'll start there in headlines. Brought to you by Tim Hortons. Hey, 2 new sparkling quenchers have hit the summer menu. Right, mango starfruit with a delicious blend of tropical flavors and wild berry hibiscus with fruity and the floral notes that just send it right over the top. Summertime refreshing beverages, perfect to beat the heat at Tim Hortons this summer.
That does sound summery, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, really wild berry hibiscus.
Yeah.
Mango
really
starfruit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very summery. Dallas Stars did not start on time, or let's give credit where probably credit is due. The Oilers out of the gate shot like a cannon, man. Connor McDavid was rocking. So the Dallas Stars, though, find a way to erase that 2-0 deficit in the second period with 3 goals. Jason Robertson scored 2, Wyatt Johnson, 3 goals in 3 minutes and 33 seconds. And you're a big fan of Roope Hintz. and what he brings. And, as we teed up the Western Conference final and then going into game 2, you're wondering, okay, well, if Roope Hintz is available, here's why that matters. And we saw firsthand last night why that matters, not just to the team, but obviously to Jason Robertson, who appeared to be a different player last night.
He is such an engine for them. He's strong and powerful, great skater, and he clears room for everybody else. And the connection with Robertson is real. I think he's got 6 goals, Robertson does, when Hintz isn't in the lineup. And it's a stark number. And all of a sudden, off the mat, he hadn't scored Robertson in 10 or 11 games, and now he's got 3. But the Oilers, they looked so good in the first, and then it looked like they were never going to touch the puck again in the first 15 minutes of the second.
Yeah.
Like that, it was a complete, flip the switch sort of deal. And I guess there's various points you can look at. Coaches always ad nauseum talk about the details, the small, the fine lines and all that. 3 of the Dallas goals, the puck was within a foot or 2 of the blue line and never got out.
Yeah.
And so as much as Dallas helped turn that around with, because they really got going, Edmonton didn't help themselves.
Yeah.
Those 3 plays, the puck gets out of the line, moves another foot or 2, there's no play. 5 seconds later, it's in the net 3 times. That's hard to come by.
So Chris Knobloch talked a little bit about this post-game, just how, you go into situations where it starts with one shift. And it sounds cliche as hell to say that, right? And then you're hoping that, okay, one good shift and the next lineup feeds off that shift. Is it too simplistic to say, and Cheryl Pounder identified this in our post-game coverage last night, maybe that's where it started in the second period for the Dallas Stars, right off the hop, right? Jamie Benn has a good shift. That line is a good shift right off the bat, and then it feeds. Or, how do you flip a switch like that in the intermission? Is it something that somebody says? Is it a collection of things? How do you know?
I never think anything is one thing only in hockey. It just never seems to be. And so they come back in after the first period. I can't even say that they survived it if they're Dallas. The period ended and they were down 2.
Yeah.
And it
almost
just ended.
3. It could have been 3 or 4.
Yeah, you can't say they survived it because they were down 2. Yet you get in there and you go, okay, guys, that sucked. That was brutal. We got to get to work here. And so Pete DeBoer starts a line that is got the energetic younger guys, and Ben, who's really the last 2 years has really embraced what he is and what he means to the team. And they start that line.
Yeah.
So once you see the shift happening, you hear on the bench, somebody will say, have another good shift. Let's get another one. And you're not even really thinking about scoring. You're about let's just have another good shift. And then pretty soon 2 shifts becomes 3. The teams talk about it now in the term, let's stack a couple of shifts together. And that's really what Dallas did. And then all of a sudden, their energy's high. Edmonton knew that they were going to get a pushback, a shove back. And now that it's happening, it's a lot easier to say, okay, let's relax. Or it's a lot harder to relax and play. It's easy to say it. And so the Oilers are talking about, at that time, I'm sure they are, let's just make a play, make a pass, get out of the zone. But pretty soon you see teams there, Dregs their back, they just flip it out to center. And great, you flipped it out to center, but you didn't get anywhere. And now here they come back again. And man, that was an onslaught.
It was. Yeah. And then you did have a bit of a momentum shift back, but it was it was too fleeting, right? The Adam Henrique goal, which was a nice goal, by the way, right? He's back into the lineup and, he gets that deflection.
That was a good touch by Knobloch. So, he gets him back in.
Yeah.
He's healthy, but he gets him back in. He takes out Ryan McLeod. He's done this a couple of times in the playoffs. It took courage to go to Pickard in games 4 and 5 against Vancouver.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then it took courage to pull Corey Perry out of the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's easy to look past, I think, the contributions of Chris Knobloch, because he's such an unassuming, quiet, not a self-promoter. Yet he's made some really good moves here in this playoffs.
So where are you in that whole realm of calling timeouts? And okay, you call it here, it's a mistake. You don't call it, it's a mistake. He used the TV timeouts as he tried to explain. But at the end of the day, he doesn't use a timeout. I mean, would there have been a point in that game? Maybe it was that span of 3 goals in 3 minutes and 33 seconds where you're just going to, let's just reset here.
I don't think you wouldn't have used it after the second one.
No,
I don't think it's 2-2. You're fine. But the next goal comes so quickly, like a minute later.
Yeah.
That might have been the time you use a timeout, but the TV timeout's 52 seconds later.
You're right.
So I know clearly, and I think he probably explained it better, that he's looking at that and saying, I'd like to take a timeout now. I'm going to get one in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the danger is you give up a fourth one while you're waiting for the TV timeout.
Yeah.
And so that's a call he's got to make as he's standing there and he's looking at his bench and he's like, can we get one more shift and get to the break?
Yeah.
But your fear for me would be you're thinking about one shift to the TV timeout. What if it goes 6 minutes without a whistle and five of those minutes are in your end?
Yeah.
Now you've kind of lost a lot of the momentum. It's a tough call for them.
So Jason Robertson jams in the game-winning goal, third period. Stuart Skinner, in fairness, let's give him some credit. It was all about accountability in his post-game interview, right? I thought his answers were thoughtful. He was very honest in his assessment of his own game and the Oilers overall, and just flat out admitted that goal in particular can't go in the net. That puck can't go in the net from that position. And without looking at it a second or a third time, and I'm sure he's looked at it a dozen times by now, seems pretty routine. And we're not goalies. We got to seal the post there, right? I mean,
right. And so here's the lousy thing about being a goalie. You stop Marchman on a breakaway at 3-2. He made a couple of really great saves. And it's almost like those don't matter because the lousy one went in at 3-3.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's the pressure of the job. That's the pressure of the position. And it does suck. But that goal can't go in.
Right.
And most people will, like you say it, like if I'm broadcasting a game, I mark it down. If there's a key save at a key time, I mark it down, I mark the time. I might mention, hey, if they come back, take a look. Let's remember that save. But all that gets washed away with the fourth goal. And he faced 21 shots, 4 went in the net. I don't care how they go in the net. You're not going to win if the save percentage you get is that. It's just, it's not good enough.
No. And he did acknowledge that too, right? You just can't allow 4 goals in the Western Conference final in a game like that. All right. Well, this series, as advertised, is a terrific one. And so too is the Eastern Conference final, which you're a big part of there. Before we get to what we could expect in the game tonight, as we record here on Tuesday, Jacob Trouba gets fined $5,000 for the hit on Evan Rodrigues. Minor penalty and a fine. There's always noise around Jacob Trouba because when he does something physical, it's normally devastating. This wasn't devastating, but it could have been on Rodrigues. So just bluntly, did the league get this one right?
Yeah, but he got really lucky.
Yeah.
Like he got really lucky because if his elbow makes contact with Rodriguez's head, it's 5 a game and a suspension. And it would be because of his history that it would make you pay attention even more. Now, so I look at the fine and I go, they must look at it, I'm assuming, and go, it wasn't a 5, but it was more than a 2. Mm-hmm. We can't give a double minor, so we're going to fine him. The most we can fine him is $5,000.
Yeah.
Which is a joke because, $5,000, I mean, that doesn't deter anything. What I don't understand, maybe you know this, does that elevate him on the suspension chart?
It does. Yeah.
Well, then that's why the fine is there.
Agreed. Yeah.
This is not new for Trouba, and generally speaking, he chicken wings his elbow when he gets beat and puts himself into jeopardy. If his arms stay in, there is no penalty. Rodrigues has beaten him.
Yeah.
But his elbow is his reflex action. And he puts himself into jeopardy with that move quite frequently. We talked earlier, I think, Dregs, about when he tried to hit Natchez from Carolina.
Oh, that was a kamikaze play, man.
Yeah, and his elbow was out. And if he makes contact, that is a multi-game suspension.
Yeah.
And at some point, he's probably going to, well, not probably. It feels likely he's going to make contact like that, and he's going to get suspended.
Yes.
But I don't know why he can't dial it back, because there are lots of hits that Trouba makes, way more that he makes than when he does a suspendable action, where he's tucked in, his elbow's tight, his shoulder goes right through the chest. Like, he's very capable and willing to do that. But this is the play that this type of scenario puts himself in jeopardy.
All right, the New York Rangers lead the Florida Panthers 2-1 in this series. The Panthers, I mean, they're feeling pretty good about their game right now, aren't they? But game
they're
4,
losing.
as we know. Yeah, they're losing. And that's why, game 4 always seems to be pivotal, because you do often have a 2-1 scenario that can quickly shift to a 3-1, despite the fact, like Florida, you're a good team and you feel like you're playing pretty well.
Yeah, the scary part would be that the Rangers, I think they will play a better game in game 4. I don't really have any question. They looked heavy. Their legs looked sluggish. Florida was all over them, in particular the first and third periods. Yet the Rangers win. They get a shorthanded goal. Barclay Goodrow's having the week of his life as far as playoff production. And they stole the game. But you're allowed to steal a game. Like, you're allowed to.
Yeah.
The danger becomes, if you're Florida, that you play a pretty good game, the Rangers respond and play a better game, and Shesterkin's really good again, and you lose. Now you're like, how did we get here? Like, that's the danger of a loss. I think they walked past it pretty easy. Yeah. It's like, hey, it sucks. We lost. But we got to go do it again in game 4.
What do you see in Artemi Panarin? I mean, he one shot on goal in game 3. I mean, this was a guy that obviously the Rangers need to be able to count on.
He's been really quiet in the series. It's tough to find ice against a team like Florida anyway. The one place that I think Panarin can find space is because of Florida's aggressiveness. They make mistakes sometimes because your timing can't be perfect all over the ice.
Right.
3 times Florida made a critical error in game 3, and the Rangers scored. And so that it's on that counterpunch where I think Panarin can be most dangerous. But he just hasn't been a threat, really.
No.
Which has not happened very many times. This year. He's had a great year.
Yeah.
But a really quiet conference final.
All right, let's wrap up headlines with more off-ice news here, right? Dan Bylsma, expected to be announced. I mean, we know that it's happening. Promoted to head coach of the Seattle Kraken. He's still coaching Coachella. The Western Conference final against Milwaukee gets underway later this week. And, I mean, it's probably a number of factors here, right? As is always the case when you're hiring a coach. But in his case, he's done a great job with the talent in the American League. And he's got that experience. This will be his 3rd head coaching assignment after leaving Buffalo and then obviously winning in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't know that hiring Bylsma for the American League job was about having a safety net if eventually Dave Haxtell was going to be let go. I don't know that, but he was certainly,
that makes sense though.
Yeah, it certainly was an experienced hire at the American League level, which does not happen very often.
No.
So they get a close day-to-day look at Bylsma. They talk and decide on players and systems, and so there's obviously a comfort level between the Kraken and Bylsma. I'm curious as to who else would have been in the mix. I'm also curious, why now? Like, while they're still playing, why now? Why not wait till they're done? And I don't have any answers to any of that. It just, when the news came out, or that I saw today, I was like, oh, that's interesting timing. But I'm not altogether surprised, given that Bylsma is sitting kind of in house there.
Yeah, makes sense. They've done a terrific job in Coachella, and the job is not quite over yet, so we'll see how things manage through. All right, those are your headlines. Thank you to Tim Hortons.
Canadian summers just hit different with Tim's.
I know it's up.
Introducing 2 new sparkling quenchers made with natural flavors and colors. Memories are made with quenchers.
It's time for Tim's.
Our interviews on Ray and Dregs brought to us by Canadian Club 1858 Original, the flagship whiskey for Canadian Club. It's where it all began. Aged over 3 years in oak barrels before being bottled. We know what the result is. The smoothest possible flavor, spicy, zesty. There's the hints of rich oak and sweet vanilla. That is Canadian Club 1858. A couple of questions. Ask Ray and Dregs anything. You could submit your questions to us on X and Instagram at Ray and Dregs, or on the website rayanddregs.com. Sandy Moger has a question for you, Ray.
Sandy Moger? Like old teammate Sandy Moger?
Great podcast, guys. Razor, one of the best teammates. Everyone knew that you would continue in a job where you could talk and chirp. So he says, question for both of you. What percentage of players from the 80s and 90s could not play in the NHL today?
Well, I would say the enforcers could not, because there doesn't seem to be a role for that type of player.
Right.
The big lumbering, mean defenseman, probably not. And well, I would say you have to be able to skate, right? We know that, but and the game is different, so certain physicalities of the game aren't needed in today's game. I would say 20%, 25%.
I think that's high. I do, because and correct me if I'm wrong. I think the great players of the past, the good players of the 80s and the 90s, Ray, if you're playing today, you're not a less smart player. You would train differently. You would train and prepare yourself the way today's players train and prepare.
Well, I guess
be less of an athlete.
Right? No, I guess I didn't think of it in that way. That certainly those players, like us players, we would have all trained in today's methods. I was trying to take a picture in my mind of players playing the game in the 80s and just trying to drop them into a game today. That's probably unfair. Because, we were training in a completely different way. The rules were so much different that players that were 170 pounds or 175 pounds did not have a chance. Like, unless you were Paul Correa, like, you didn't have a chance. There's a few here and there you could go around, but not like today.
No.
Like, not like today, because every inch of the ice was hand-to-hand combat. And if you were getting to the front of the net, like I've told the story before, the third cross-check would hit you, and the ref would yell, "That's enough." And you're like, what do you mean that's enough? It was enough 3 ago. But those were the rules, man. That's why when I look at it, I go, I thought like a quarter of the players wouldn't be able to play.
Yeah.
Just if you tried to take them and drop them into today.
No, and I'm thinking of goalies now, right? And I'm thinking of John Garrett and all the diminutive goalies who just stayed on their feet as best they could. I mean, now, guys are 6'3", 6'5".
Yeah, but they also would have, to your point,
yeah,
those smaller goalies would have had equipment that protected them. Like,
sure.
We used to come after practice and you'd see a goalie that their upper arm, like from their shoulder to their elbow, would be like a overripe banana.
Just tattooed with bruises.
And you'd be like, oh, how's it going?
Oh,
and they'd be like, oh, yeah, it's not bad. And they'd be like, if you hit a goalie in the shoulder, they would literally chase you down. They were so mad in practice.
You're getting clubbed. Yeah. You're getting the two-hander. Where did you play Sandy? In LA?
In LA, yep.
Yeah.
I want to say Mokes came from Boston, and I had gotten traded from the Rangers.
Nice.
Number 45, the big rangy right winger.
Number 45 in the program, number 1 in your heart.
I think Mokes is back in Salmon Arm, back around the interior of BC.
Nice. We'll
hey,
check
Mokes,
in
hope
next
you're
time
good, buddy.
Smoking through the Okanagan. All right. Eddie on X-Ray. This one made me laugh, and it's Leafs related, which is why I put it in here. Any chance John Tavares says, hey, instead of blowing it up, I'm just going to waive my no-move clause. You can send me anywhere. You can take a year to see what you can do with my $11 million. Spend around the group, see what you can do. And then I'm going to come back next summer as an unrestricted free agent, and I'm going to give you a sweetheart hometown discount. I say whatever is less than 0% chance of that happening is where we should go with this. Eddie, how about you?
So if a player's going to waive his no trade, he's basically going to tell the team where he will go.
Yeah.
That's it.
No question. That's it.
And then a year later, anything could be possible. But if you're moving past the group, then you're moving past the group. You're not going to say, oh, in a year and a half, this will be better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm with you. Whatever's next door to zero, but on the zero side of zero is where I go there.
Yeah. And look, I mean, he was eager to get back from Prague to spend some time with Craig Berube, right? Like they obviously didn't have the face-to-face with him. They did talk over the phone, and we'll see. I'm sure they're going to meet in the near future. Not unlike, social media is such a cesspool, right? Yeah. So you saw the picture of Berube and Mitch Marner.
Right.
And, social media, Leafs Nation was just, there was just a million scenarios. Ooh, wonder maybe he's, talking about what he considered. Like, he was just nonsense. And maybe he
was giving him tips how to fight. Like, how ridiculous is it? They're having a meeting. They met for a coffee.
Yeah.
You got to meet the guy each of them for the first time, no?
Yeah. But, I mean, it was reported as if they met Monday morning. No. As Berube talked about when he was introduced last Tuesday, a week ago, he'd already had conversation with most of the players and had a few face-to-face meetings. Well, Marner was one of those last week, not Monday morning. It's just, boy.
Yeah, well, it's not, if it's not posted with a timestamp, then everybody can put it in whatever order they want it to be put in.
All right, crystal ball time. Final question here on Ask Darren Dreger. Anything from Sprite Manser Designs. I'm not sure what they design. I'll have to find out. If Mishkov joins the Philadelphia Flyers, right? How many points do you think we should project him being able to score in his rookie? Now, look, you don't have the data in front of you. I will tell you, with Sochi in the KHL this year, 47 games, he has 19 goals and 41 points in the Continental Hockey League. 19 years old, turned 19 in December.
Well, I saw him at the World Juniors. The last one I did, he must have been 16, I guess, maybe 17. The kid's a hell of a player.
Yeah, nice player.
And he is a scorer. He has a definite way around the net to get from the outside. Like, the traffic didn't bug him. Getting inside of, like, the defenseman didn't bug him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say, but like, he's 50 points,
Yeah.
like 40 to 50 points. Like that might not sound like a lot. That's a
It's
lot.
It's
And
hard.
and he's really good. Like the Flyers, I'm sure, they got to bite their tongue through all the contractual stuff, but I'm sure they can't get him there fast enough.
Yeah. Well,
They would love to have him there.
How hard is it? I mean, Connor Bedard had a terrific year, right? He goes to play for Canada at the Men's World Hockey Championship, and it was a struggle for him. I mean, at times he looked like a kid playing against men. He did, and
Okay,
Bear
I'll ask you
turning-
this.
Yeah.
I'll ask you this. Alexis Lafreniere was the first pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
How does he look now compared to 4 years ago?
Oh,
Right?
boy.
Like, and he's still a
Night and
kid.
day.
He's
Yeah.
still a kid. Like
Yeah.
he scored 28 goals this year. He scored 2 beauties the other day. But not everybody gets to just jump in and have it go smoothly. Most
No.
don't. And I look at, like, I know, and there's people all up in arms that Kako can't do this and Kako can't do that. Man, he's a young guy.
Yeah. Lots of
Like
time.
these players, like at 18, 19, 20, like in many cases, it's just too much for them. And they'll get there. If they're good enough, they'll get there.
By the way, Ryan Rashog submitted in our group chat, what does Auf Wiedersehen mean in German, Ray? Until we meet again.
Oh, isn't
Isn't that
nice? I like
nice?
it. I like it.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to
So there
start
you go.
using it around in English. Until we meet again, Dregs. Until we meet again.
You got a big lunch date or what's going on? Just hitting the
Well, I
books.
got to
prep
eat
work?
lunch. I got to prep. I would like to work out before, I got a busy afternoon. Well, not really, but this is my routine type of the day
Yeah.
or on game day. And so like to get it done. I mean, you got to go back and cut your lawn, right?
Yeah, I do got to finish cutting my grass. Yeah.
And what's it looking like?
Pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to the grass. And in fact, you'll appreciate this.
Oh, I
They're
thought you were
very
just going to
expensive.
stop when you say you're a bit of a nerd. I thought you were just
Yeah.
going to stop.
Well, when it comes to lawn care and stuff.
Oh, I
like
see.
that,
I see my mistake.
I've looked, and I'm just too cheap to spend the money, but I'd like to buy a greens mower, just so that I could take it right. Not because I want to go putt on it. I just like the look of how well kept it is, and it's so clean and crisp. But
You know what you
too
should
cheap,
buy?
they're expensive.
You know what you should buy is one of those they're little, like they're like a giant turtle, and you set them off on their own. They're like a Roomba, and they cut the grass.
Yeah.
You could have that. You could just sit there, you and Tiny. You could have your Canadian club. You could sip it, and
But okay, you've been around me enough.
you like the lawn, you like the work, you like the
Well, I mean, do you think it's a good idea that I exercise less as I get older?
That's a good point. It's a good point. You
So-
could in your days, like you could go and put a piece of equipment in the basement and not hang clothes on it.
It's 5,500 steps. That's what I.
That's your
so I-
yardage?
Yeah. So I
Nice.
walk Tiny, the Great Dane, and that gets me to just about 5,000. And then cutting the grass is, so you're in that 10, 11,000 steps.
And then you go
It's
home,
not
have a
bad.
couple of grilled cheese, and wonder what's happening.
Okay. No, not quite, but something
But
similar.
good for
All
you.
right,
I
buddy.
like that. I like that. That's a good plan. Don't get
What's the rest of the week?
automated one. Now I'm going back to
No.
New York. Going to New
Yeah.
York on tomorrow, and Game 5 is what day is today, Dregs?
Yeah, it'd be Thursday because the West is
Today's
Wednesday,
Tuesday.
Friday.
Yeah. So game 5 Thursday, and then if Florida wins one of the next two, we'll be back here for Game 6 on Saturday.
Have you had a look at the potential scenarios for the Stanley Cup final?
I have.
Like, are they planning of awarding the Stanley Cup in 24, or are we waiting for 2025?
The last game of the Stanley Cup is June 24th.
Which works out perfectly because that just gets me in time to Vegas for the draft and then
Right.
July 1st free agency. Yeah.
So, as I understand, Boston is in the NBA final.
Yeah.
And so they're City 1 because they're the first team in.
Yeah.
And if Dallas wins, then it would be Boston, Dallas.
Yeah.
And then the NHL has to work around those days too. And what they want, because of the TV networks, of course, is NBA one night, hockey the next.
Yeah.
And so they want
Yeah.
it. So
I get
that's
it.
why it spreads out, man.
I just, it should be more convenient for guys like you and me. That's what.
Yeah,
it
they don't
boils
care.
down to.
They don't ask and they don't care.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll connect again later in the week with another pod.
Yep.
In the meantime, have a great call, and look forward to chatting with you again later this week.
Awesome. Thanks for curtailing your mowing to get this in. And everybody, thanks for listening. Hope you have a great week. We'll talk later on.
You bet. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs, our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey, and Tim Hortons. Until next time, stay safe, everybody.